Hey everybody, I wanted to put together an AI delivery enablement guide for ServiceNow product owners out there. We have all this AI access, we have access to all these tools. How do we get the most out of it? This is supposed to be a high level guide. I didn't go too deep in the technicals. And if you want access to this, you can go on my website, put in an email, and then you'll have access to download it. Or you can just DM me and I will send that. So having these AI tools is not the same as having a team workflow because everyone on your team could use these in completely different ways. And what I've noticed is not a lack of access to AI, it's the lack of a shared way of using this across the entire team. So I've kind of bucketed the AI resources into categories here. And I think teams really will benefit from having a shared team workflow where you map out your entire process from intake, story creation, to building, to handoff. And this is where you should catalog where are we keeping all of our team context, which AI tools we have approved, shared instructions on promotion, whether we are putting updates into update sets or using the Git control, source control. So what I've seen is there will be one developer who is more technical than the rest, who is experimenting, maybe using one of the MCPs out there or really heavily in Cloud Code, or you'll have others that are just using ChatGPT and pasting in screenshots, stories, and other instance context. And just giving them the AI tools and saying go use them is not a rollout plan because one, you can't tell if AI is improving delivery, if it's increasing risk or duplicating spend. There's no common instructions, there's no common way of doing work across the entire dev team. A lot of prompts and stuff specific developers use gets lost. We want that context to be shared across the entire team, and that's how we can really get leverage. So, my recommendation is to standardize the entire setup and then let the team share what works. So we should approve what the AI can read from approved documents, stories, and then also approve what the AI can change. So what it can have access to, what it can't have access to, whether that's Jira, GitHub, the ServiceNow instance itself. If the AI is going to make architecture changes in a really complex custom scoped app, then there's some approvals that goes through. And once we do the work with AI, how do we put that back into team context so that we can continue to reuse it? Because if the AI has to continue to rediscover the same context over and over again, then that's waste. We should reuse what works into a shared repo that the AI can query. So this is just an example here from a typical request that would come in. First pass is from the approved files where we have template screenshots, documents, and then we can have the AI draft stories, acceptance criteria, ask any missing questions that we might have missed. Then it can go do instance context discovery where it goes and look into the ServiceNow instance and pulls out context that can be useful for this story. And then the dev themselves can make architecture decisions based on the first pass, questions asked, that refinement, and what was in the instance from that context discovery. Then the dev will go and build this in dev or in a subprod instance over the approved pathways that you have approved. And then this should be reviewed and packaged and then added into team context to be reused again in the future. So we're not using AI to build in production. It's helping the team expect, draft, package, review work before humans even approve it. So what should you approve first? You should allow files first to help refine stories, acceptance criteria, screenshots, documents, examples. Then set up the developer workspace where every developer has a coding agent, common instructions. They have that team workspace context, different review rules and how to use the SDK. Then you allow approved reads and checks and controlled changes to the instance, whether that's through the table API or SDK with the table API, MCP, etc. And anything that gets done by AI needs to be approved and reviewed by humans. So if you're checking and changing dev records, use the Connector.fetch table API with SDK authenticated access. I found the fastest practical path in my testing for approved deb, read, writes, and different checks. So I would use this to pull and post any kind of small implementation changes a dev might do. If you're building big ServiceNow changes across a really complicated custom application, then I would use the SDK Fluent with a source control. And if could it affect any user security, data, or automation, then it needs to be reviewed. And if you want to share access across the entire team, then I would use the MCP with custom tools, so then the entire team would have access to them. Here's my recommendation of the first setup. You should give every developer the same controlled setup. So that way the ServiceNow work will become safer and more repeatable. All of them should have the same shared instruction file, so the same Claude MD or agents.md with the same rules on how it should work inside your team's context. And then approved context, what can they upload? So what docs, screenshots, export stories can they use with the AI? You need to decide the ServiceNow developer path, when to use the SDK and Fluent source work, when can they use the approved table API to make changes over update sets, and when MCP and custom tools make sense if you need to reach out to Jira or reach out to GitHub, etc. And we need a review standard with moving to production, whether that's in update sets or source control. We all need to be aligned on which work can be used in update sets versus the source control. And then we want to make reusable examples. Create a team access repo where we can share this context so we don't have to rediscover the same context over and over again. Give each developer the same controlled setup: coding agent, shared instruction files, ServiceNow SDK auth, approved dev access, clear API write rules. So when can they use the table API versus the source control Fluent? Update set expectations, and when a human is coming in to review the work. So pick 2 or 3 stories, run it through the setup, keep what worked, add it to the shared team repo, so then everyone has access to that context. So again, if you want this guide, you can go on my website, enter in your email, and then you can download it. If not, I can send it to you over DM on LinkedIn. If you want this for your team, you want a guided setup, you can bring me in. We'll map out your current tools, write the team instructions, set up the access rules. We'll run real stories through it. You'll leave with examples, review notes, and a developer workflow that you can keep reusing. Appreciate you checking it out.